There's some lionesses here that are watching a buffalo. And him being on his own, he is very vulnerable. He's now spotted one of the lionesses. And she's still watching very intently. Well, today looks like it's going to be a very sunny and hot day, and we are heading down towards the Tanzania border to see if there are any lions or cheetah around. So come along with us. As always out here in the Mara, we do need to admire these massive herds of animals along the way, but we are almost at the destination where we want to start our search. And it looks like there are some very nervous mongooses there. It looks like a family of banded mongooses, and it looks like they have some naughty neighbors on the termite mound next door. There's some lionesses here that are watching a buffalo. Now I only see the two of them, and these are in fact two of the lionesses from the river pride, and though it was the pride that we saw not too long ago feeding on the hippo, then there were 5, now there's only 2. Maybe the other 3 are hidden somewhere in the grass, I'm not sure, but these 2 are very much focused on this buffalo bull. And him being on his own, he is very vulnerable, but with 2 lionesses, they might be interested. I don't think they'd be able to take him down, but you never know, it depends if the other 3 are here. He's now spotted one of the lionesses. And she's still watching very intently. I mean, that would be an incredibly large meal for her and her sister. Oh, he's not sticking around, it looks like. I would have expected the other lionesses to be in the bushes somewhere, and then maybe these 2 had the job of chasing that buffalo bull into the thickets, but he ran and I didn't see any movement from the thickets, so I think it's actually just these 2. So it does beg the question, where are the other 3? Unless maybe they've crossed over the river, or maybe followed the dominant males in the area, maybe they're mating. Who knows? As far as we know, this pride doesn't have any cubs, so it's very possible that they've split for the moment. It does look like these 2 are starting to head towards the thickets. Or at least the one lioness is interested in heading towards the thickets. The other one is kind of going, okay, where do you want to go? What do we do now? But I think it's a pretty good idea because it means that they start to regain neutrality. In other words, things that are in the area that may have seen that buffalo bull running off have now forgotten that the lions are there. But look at all of these mongooses running along the road. How cute! There's so many of them. Oh, and down into the burrows they go. Oh, what's that? Oh, there's a warthog walking into the thickets where the lionesses are. Oh, ooh, this could be interesting. Never mind. He spotted them straight away. That was not long. And I don't blame him for running. Look at that little tail sticking up in the air. If there were other warthogs, they'd be able to follow him through the long grass, but he's on his own this time. And those lionesses definitely look defeated. Look at how that one's lying on the termite mound. And now there's nothing in the area. So I don't know how long they've been hunting in this area, whether they've been hunting throughout the night, which is a possibility. Stumbled upon the buffalo, thought maybe they'd give it a go. They kind of contemplated it for a little bit and have now decided, you know what, it's not worth it. And are just going to rest in the shade until maybe a little bit later when things start to move back into the area. And their prey has forgotten that there's danger in the area. So the more they stay hidden in the thickets and in the shade, the better chance they have of animals moving back into that area. So they might very well hunt during the day. But for now, it's... in amongst these herds, there are other animals, just like these hippos. And this is not the river, this is a little puddle that's collected on the side. Oh, there's a hippo rolling in the back. It's just his belly sticking up. It looks like a small pod that's come in here. I don't see any youngsters though, so I would imagine it's probably a small pod of bulls that have maybe been ousted from pods in the river by more dominant bulls, and they've now wandered into this little pond here that's formed on the side of the road. It's actually a little gully. It's almost running a little bit further into the plains here. But after all the rain, I'm not surprised. I think they've just collected here to wait out the hot day, and they'll make their way back down towards the river and towards where there's greener pastures during the night where they can graze. But for now, they just have to be content in the water. And speaking of water, now that it's getting hotter and getting more towards midday, I think it's a great idea to just go and check the river again. It's always worth a look. There's always something happening down at this river, regardless of whether the herds are there or not. So let's see what we find today. There are just so many more wildebeest out today. Last time we were at this area, heading down towards the river, it was mainly zebra, and now there are just thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of wildebeest, and look at them all walking in single file. And there's even some swallows that are flying overhead. And I mean, with this mass of animals moving through these grasslands, you can only imagine how many grasshoppers and moths and other types of insects are being disturbed out of that grass. And these birds are all congregating here looking for any tasty morsel that these wildebeest are disturbing. And I can't say that I blame them. There must be a lot of food for them here. And speaking of birds and their meals, it looks like the swallows are not the only ones who have found a meal today. There is a whole bunch of different species of vultures here, and it looks like they have found a very unlucky wildebeest. And this is a very common sight during the migration. There's often lots of carcasses of wildebeests because there's just so many of them around. They've got predators hunting them, and sometimes when they're stampeding, they actually trample each other. Now there are a couple of different species of vultures here. There's whiteback vultures, which are currently feeding on the carcass, and then just off to the side, there's actually a much larger vulture with a pink face that we did come across not too long ago, called a lappet-faced vulture. And so now that the lappet face has had his fill, the whiteback vultures are making their way in. As much as I am enjoying all of the great spectacles that the migration has to offer, from the incredible predator sightings to, of course, the hundreds of thousands of animals spread out over these great plains, which is just awe-inspiring, I also love focusing on the much smaller details and looking at almost like the supporting acts and everything that happens around the migration, including this little baby hippo, who not so long ago we saw when it had just been born, and I'm sure it's the same one, just because it's in the same stretch of river and it's round about the same size, and Mum is looking a lot more relaxed in the shallows of the water, with a whole bunch of cattle egrets resting on the bank. How beautiful is that? And not only is Mama Hippo out and about, but there's some zebra coming down to the water's edge as well. Well, that looks a bit dicey with all the crocodiles there. I think what's happened is the crocodiles have spotted the zebra coming down and they're all starting to position themselves. Look at those two. They're positioning themselves on the edge of the bank. Wow. How tactical and strategic do you have to be? Imagine the thought process going through these crocodiles' minds. There are a couple that are on the bank, which maybe they just don't care that there's food around. Maybe they've eaten already their fill and they're quite happy to just lounge in the sun. But there are others that have positioned themselves in a place where they're hidden behind the rocks, but they can still watch the zebra coming down. And this water is murky enough that if these crocodiles wanted to, they could very easily just slip into the murky water, submerge themselves, and slowly make their way towards where the zebra are. In fact, there's one getting in the water right now. And it is looking to swim upstream, just judging by the direction, but it might very well just stay in the water. Maybe getting a little bit too hot in the sun, even though it's a reptile and it needs the sun in order to heat its body up. Being a cold-blooded animal, it needs the sun for external heat to then bring up its metabolism speed, but not really interested in feeding. In fact, all of these crocodiles look like they're quite fat, including this one climbing up onto the bank now. That doesn't make the zebra any less nervous, though. And I don't blame them. I would be terrified if I had to go and drink in that river. But it seems like these zebra are fairly safe. The crocodiles don't seem interested at all, and it looks like they're almost done with their drink for the day, so I think we're going to leave them be, and we are going to start making our way back towards the lodge for some well-earned refreshments of our own, because this is a very hot day out on the plains. But let's see what we find on the way back. Even though it's so open, you really never know what you're going to come across. And look at what we have spotted in the distance on our way back to camp. It looks to be an elephant carcass. Just look at how many hyenas and vultures and marabou stalks there are. There's just so much life that has gathered around this carcass. Amazing to think that there are so many creatures that actually depend on animals not surviving out here. And of course, we were looking for lions today, and we have been lucky to start our drive and end our drive with some lions around. And it looks like one of the enthralled males has appeared. Here he comes towards the vehicle. Look at that. Oh, he's massive. But he might very well be looking for any puddles of water that have been left in the grass, or just some shade to rest for the day. So we're going to leave him be and enjoy the rest of our drive back to camp.